Welcome back to another episode of After the Final Rose with Alana and Dante. We're excited to get a podcast in person and together. The final episode has come and gone, and we're ready to break everything down for you. This week we had two episodes, one on Monday and one on Tuesday. And in Tuesday, everything went down, and we got what we have been waiting for. But first, let's get into Monday's episode, Fantasy Suites.
Yeah, that was an interesting night. I think we got a lot of stuff that we weren't expecting. We started off with Ivan's fantasy suite. Theirs was cute. They kind of did their date very similar to Carly and Evan in the past with the record.
Yeah.
So they broke the world's longest, coldest kiss. And they kept them in like ice tubs for, I think it ended up being like 6 minutes or something.
Yeah.
And they had to kiss the entire time, which was, I don't know, kind of weird. But they did it. They made through it. I thought it went really well. And then, of course, like after that, you get a dinner, like a one-on-one with just the two of them. And he finally tells her that he's falling in love. And which is the first for him. We haven't heard that yet from him. We've only heard it from Zach, I think. And yeah, just Zach, because Brendan hasn't said it either. And Tayshia responded back and told him that she was falling for him, which was good because I think we all were kind of waiting to see where they left off or where they were. But she then gives him the fantasy suite card, and they are in a trailer, which I kind of felt bad because I felt like he got the short end of the stick when it came to the date because they had this, I guess, trailer, RV, something parked for them to stay in instead of like a hotel room or a suite or whatever. But yeah, so they woke up the next morning. He said that they, I think, spent the whole night talking and they got to know each other more, which is great. So he definitely walked out of there, I think, feeling confident.
Yeah, and also to add, like, she didn't say she was falling in love with him. She said, I'm falling for you too.
Right.
Which drew a red flag for me because she didn't include the word love at all. Yeah. And I think that's where I was like, oh, Ivan, this is not a good sign for you.
Right.
But then we move on into Zach's fantasy suite, and it was very creative and fun how the date started. They painted each other, and it was very similar to Carly and Evan's date once again during Bachelor in Paradise, and they like rolled around in the paint, made art, and it was like a artwork of their love, and it was very similar to Evan and Carly.
Yeah.
And, Zach keeps getting the fun one-on-one dates. He gets the best ones. And some of the other guys, they don't get the best dates.
Yeah.
And I think it could be a sign of what's to come of, does she purposely pick these dates for Zach because she sees the most progression between the two and she wants to progress it even more. But then we go into the night portion of the date, and Tayshia brings up the fact that Zach's mom said to her that, I'm trying to remember the words, but like Zach had never imagined having kids.
Yeah, he never wanted to have kids.
Things have changed, and Zach tells her that it's because of her, and he's developed, and he's changed his mind on a lot of things, and she's changed his perspective, and then now he wants kids and would love to have kids with her, and Zach tells Tayshia, which I think he already did, but that he loves her, and he just continues to say it, and Tayshia says it back to him and tells him that she loves him too.
Yeah, I think the kids thing was kind of like a lot of people were confused because in one of the first episodes we had with Tayshia, I mean, she tells a lot of the guys she wants like 5 or 6 kids, a lot of kids. So I think for her, she just was like, okay, before I get married to you and commit, like, do you actually want to have kids, or are you just saying this so you can win this? Which I was a little skeptical about it because I don't know how you can quickly decide like that, oh, I want to have kids now, but I guess she changed him. So, yeah, they have their fantasy suite date, and I thought it went really well. You could tell that the guys are starting to get a little nervous and get anxious because obviously, like, when they're done, they have to go back and all sit in the same room, which is kind of weird. And I don't know. I would feel weird about that. I would feel uncomfortable.
We don't see that usually in many seasons. I think we did see it in Peter's season, and that was one of the seasons where we were like,
it was very weird.
That's weird and uncomfortable. Why would they do that? And then they do it again this season. Obviously, I mean, it is under different circumstances. They are in a resort.
Yeah.
And they, I don't know, it is probably set up, but it is uncomfortable. And you can definitely tell Brendan is the most uncomfortable of them all. Because he's thinking in the back of his head, I'm going last, and these guys just got to spend the night with Tayshia.
Right. And you don't know what went down.
Where does that put me? And that leads into Brendan's fantasy suite date, which is them meeting Neil Lane.
Yeah.
And, you know, they pick out the engagement ring.
That was weird.
It just freaked Brendan out.
So much. You could, like, a lot of people wear their emotions on their face and facial expressions. I tend to do that a lot. And it gets me in trouble. And, like, you could see he just, like, it was all on his face that he did not want to be there. It was, like, it clicked in his head, like, oh, shit, I have to, like, pick one of these rings out and get down on one knee. But he continued on the date. He definitely wasn't, like, he didn't stop it or, you know, make her feel uncomfortable. You could just see it on his face. But, yeah, I definitely think everything flashed. And he was like, shoot.
Yeah, and he is one of the guys that was engaged or married in his mid-20s, and I think that plays a big factor in it because he's like, I don't want to make this mistake again.
Twice, yeah.
And
same with Tayshia.
Yeah, maybe he goes up and he's about to propose, and Tayshia's like, it's not you, and he does not want to go through that, and it freaks him out. And also, you know, the time span between, like, this season is short, and he doesn't want to say he got down on one knee, and she did say yes, and then it would have come crumbling down. So I think he was afraid of that as well. So he just didn't want to go through that all again.
Yeah, and then that obviously led into their dinner part where, you know, we find out if they're going to have a fantasy suite or not. And I think everybody, like, was just totally taken off guard. I mean, no one expected it. But Brendan tells her, like, he just, you know, he's still hurt from his past relationship. And I don't think he meant, like, he was still in love with her or had feelings. I just think he truly, like you said, wasn't ready.
Yeah.
And he didn't want to go through all the pain of if she didn't choose him or, you know, whatever happens in the situation. Or if in a month or two he's like, that's not what I want. So he actually tells her that he's just not ready. Which we knew he wasn't ready, but, like, he still stayed and still was pushing for it. And I think Tayshia handled it well, but I think that he deserved at least to be told, like, thank you for, you know, deciding this now and making this decision. Like, I'm proud of you, and that's big of you because, like, a lot of people are on this show to become famous or to, you know, have followers and would have stayed just to stay just so they could make it all the way to the end and be famous. But he was like, no, that's not the case. But yeah, she sends him home and you can tell she's just totally shocked. I mean, she really liked him and was heartbroken. Yeah. I think that's when we finally saw her connection with him was real.
Yeah. And I was shocked to see Brendan go home because I did see them as a possible couple at the end of this. But I guess you respect him for what he did and not, I guess, leading Tayshia on in a way or having that mistake come to bite them after the show when they're together.
Right.
But after he sends himself home, Tayshia meets with Rachel Lindsay, who was one of the past bachelorettes, and they just talk about the guys that are left. I mean, Rachel knows it better than anybody, especially when it comes to somebody leaving her season in the final 3, which was for Rachel was the final 2. But Tayshia just talks about how confident she is with the guys and how she really likes the 2 that are left. And then she also touches on her connection with Ben.
Yeah, I was surprised by that.
Who she sent home. And it was clear that she still had feelings for Ben. And maybe she wished he was there. And then that all leads up to a knock on Tayshia's door. And lo and behold, it's Ben.
Yep. I think we get a little bit of Ben before the episode ends. But yeah, I mean, he comes back, you know. I kind of thought, I had this last week, if you listened to last week's episode, I had this theory that I didn't even think was real. I kind of just made it up in my head that he would come back because he never posted anything on social media. Like, a lot of the guys at least posted something like, you know, it was a great season, like, thank you so much, I met such great guys, blah, 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 and nothing came from him. And, yeah, we got to see him, and I was happy that he came back and finally told her. And I think even though he said he wasn't expecting anything from her, I think he was expecting to come back. Like, I think he knew that she was waiting for him to say I love you, and he was like, if I just come back and say it, I'll be able to stay. So I think Tayshia's just in shock, and they ended up, you know, ending the season or the episode right there. And we don't get to find out until last night's episode what's going to happen with Ben, if she's going to keep him, send him home.
Yeah, and he does end up saying to her at the end of Monday night's episode that he does love her and that he wish he said it sooner, and that was one of his big mistakes. And I feel like Ben holds back a lot, and we saw it all season that he's in his own head, I guess, and he's just made that mistake of holding back, and it continues to bite him in the butt. But then that segues into Tuesday's episode, the grand finale of this Tayshia season, and it finishes off with them talking to each other. And Tayshia does ask him to attend the rose ceremony that night, which was, I think, like 20 minutes later.
Yeah.
So it was coming quick. So that's not even that long to, like, decide who you're going to send home. But, I mean, maybe she did have like hunch of who she was going to send home. If she sent anybody home, because I wonder if there were two left, would she have still sent somebody home, or would she have waited and just given them both the rose?
Yeah.
But as they were leaving, it looked like Ben was like going in for a hug, and she was like, no, or she denied it. And then once they got outside to say their final goodbye, he hugged her, and then they just started kissing.
And she kissed him.
And right then and there, I was like, oh, Ben is definitely going to stay.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. Because at least with Bennett, like when he came back, she didn't really give him much. Where like Bennett, I think, tried to kiss her, and she was like, no. But then she let Ben. Or she kissed Ben. So then, obviously, we have another moment where, like, the guys have no idea that someone's back, and they're standing there at the rose ceremony waiting, and Ben just, like, walks in, definitely, like, smiling on a high horse. And, you know, they didn't even really touch upon the fact that, like, did they know Brendan wasn't coming?
No.
Or, like, because Ben walked in instead of Brendan. So, like, did they already know he was going home? Like, I don't know. That was kind of weird.
Yeah.
But, Tayshia comes in and then pulls Ivan aside. And I was confused because she said she sent him home because they didn't have the same religious beliefs. But I don't remember anyone really talking about their religious beliefs.
No, I'm thinking it came in the fantasy suites where they had this conversation. And I'm wondering if Ivan said he was like of a different religion than her, or if he said he didn't want to raise his kids in like the church or something. But it clearly set Tayshia off.
Yeah.
And she ended up sending Ivan home because of this. And she kept saying that there were red flags, but we never saw them.
I know, I never saw that.
So it got to be from the fantasy suite.
Yeah, I mean, they said they stayed up all night talking. So, I mean, maybe, she really got to know him more. It was like, this is actually more than I, knew.
And he said something along the lines of, like, right when I said it, I knew it was going to bite me. But I hope they come out and, like, clarify it.
Yeah, because no one even, like, we always knew that she was religious, but I don't really remember, like, I don't even know what
she didn't talk
Zach's
about
religion
it at all.
Or if anyone. I know Zach, I think, actually, because of all of his stuff he does with getting people sober and the I don't want to say it wrong, but he runs some type of organization. And I think he's mentioned maybe God in that sense of describing it, but, like, I don't know of anyone having a certain religion.
Yeah, no. So I do hope they come out and talk about that. I don't know if they will, but, like, everybody's just confused.
Yeah.
And they didn't explain it at all.
Yeah, I would have liked to see Ivan meet her parents, but obviously she sends him home, so Ben and Zach are the two that get to meet her parents. And I think this is where we truly see who she's going to pick. I think after the parent scenes, like, you could walk away like, okay, I know who she is going to pick. And I think my mind changed on who I wanted her to pick. But first, Ben meets her parents, and, she sees her family. They bring on her two brothers. I didn't know this, but I found out because I follow her on social media. She also has a sister who was in pilot school for Navy, maybe. And so she's been gone for a whole year. She just saw her sister for the first time like a week ago. She put it on social media. So she does have a sister too. And then the two brothers and her mom and dad get to meet Ben. And I thought Ben did well with them, but I definitely felt like it was all kind of staged or maybe pre-rehearsed for him. That it was like he knew what he was going to say to them. Obviously, like, he had to explain the whole why she sent him home and then brought him back. And then it was kind of weird. They were like saying, oh, second chances. He's getting a second chance. And I was like, that's just like already doesn't sound too good to me.
Yeah.
For both of them to call it that way. Obviously, no one wants to start off a marriage or a relationship with a second chance.
And it seemed like they were already skeptical once Tayshia told her parents that she sent Ben home and he returned. So the dad was definitely skeptical. But I love the words Ben was saying when he was talking to her dad. But were they staged and were they a play for possibly like being the next Bachelor? But me personally, I felt like it was genuine in what he was saying.
Yeah, so do I.
And he like meant it, and he loved Tayshia, and he was gonna fight for her, and like he's learned from all his mistakes on the show so far, and like he kept saying he envisions his life after the show with Tayshia.
Yes. Yeah, and that was good. I mean, I think it helped her dad know that like he was serious. But yeah, you could definitely tell by how the parents' conversation with him versus when you see Zach's later that like they definitely favored Zach and his answers compared to Ben's. But then we see, they had like a little scooter moment or whatever, and then they left. And I think they again said Ben told her again that he loved her, because I remember her being like he's finally saying it, he's finally opening up. And then Zach shows up and meets the parents, and this was just like a whole way better scenario. Very well spoken. You can tell that he's very mature. He's ready for marriage. I keep thinking he's way older than he really is. Not even because of the little bit of gray hair, but like because of the way he carries himself and the way that he talks. But yeah, no, I thought he had good conversations with the parents. When he sat down with her dad, I can't remember exactly what they talked about, but like just his answers. Like I think she was saying how he was nervous about them, like her getting married again.
Yeah, and he talked about, I can't remember exactly the words, but they talked about the first marriage and how it was sort of like not a trial, but it ended up being a trial in the long run. And he said, what's to say Tayshia isn't another trial? And Zach was reassuring him, like, he wants forever with Tayshia. He sees forever, and that he wants to get down on one knee at the end of it and propose to her.
Yeah, and even, I think he had a conversation did he talk with her mom?
Zach, yes.
Yeah, and he was explaining to her, how much he loved her, and then you could tell just his mom, or her mom even, like, lit up when she was talking to Zach versus Ben. She looked very skeptical when she talked to Ben. But, he said he's ready for marriage the day he met Tayshia, and how it changed everything for him. And, I walked away from that, and I was like, okay, like, I always loved Ben, and I wanted Ben to come back. But after that, I was like, I think those two need to be together. And then they go on to, like, what was it?
Well,
her dad.
Yeah.
Her dad shows up and knocks on the door. And I thought it was funny because obviously Tayshia was like, oh my God, now what? She probably thought it was another person coming back.
Well, she probably thought it was Brendan.
Yeah.
Because she was like, oh, no.
Yeah. But her dad pretty much just talks about how like skeptical he was, and um it wasn't, what I liked was it wasn't a conversation like Peter's mom. Like, I don't think he specifically said like you should choose this person or you should choose that person, or you're doing the wrong, like you're making the wrong choice. I think he was more concerned like, are you ready to get married? Like, do you really want to get engaged?
And like he is Tayshia's rock, and she talked about it. Like during her divorce, like she would go and cry in the car with her dad, and it was so tough for her. And her dad was always with her through it all. So I think she knows that he knows her better than anybody, and that if he sees something wrong, then maybe it is true. And he had to ask those hard hitting questions.
Yeah, I thought that was definitely way better than when we got like Barb and Peter. Because you could just tell that that clicked in Tayshia, and from there, she like you could tell she made her decision in her head. And then the dancing date, you could tell she was very off in the beginning, and that was another thing. Like the way Zach handled that whole situation with her, and you know, he kept trying to cheer her up, and he could tell she was upset and something was wrong, and that just like was that was just, I think, the where it clicked for her, and she was like, this is someone I want to be with, because like he spent the whole time not like being mad at me for being upset, but he just spent the whole time trying to make it worth my while, and they had such a good date, and that whole everything I just thought really brought everything home for them.
It was definitely a foreshadowing moment, I feel like, towards what we'll talk about later. But with the dance, like there was their first, the first dance at their wedding, and so will it be foreshadowing to what's to come? But after that date, Tayshia has clarity. She knows what she wants to do, and she goes to talk to Ben, and you know she tells Ben that she knows what she wants, and she knows her heart is with somebody else, and it's not with him. And Ben seems to be, I guess, shocked, because you know he kept saying that he sees a life with her and he wants it, and like he thinks that it's going to happen, and Tayshia's going to pick him, but she doesn't end up picking him. And he said, which I loved, he said, when you love someone, you just want them to be happy. And Tayshia ended up saying she wants him to be happy back. And then he, like, holding back tears, or like sort of choking up in a way, because you know he doesn't cry. He says someday, and like that's tough. That's tough to say, and hopefully he does get it soon. But it's not with Tayshia.
Yeah, I think it was another one of those Blake moments where I think he just wasn't expecting it, and he's gonna need time to get over this breakup. But it was the right thing to do. I mean, why? And she's done it this whole season. That's what I really like about her is why waste his time getting up there? Enjoy that whole moment was like with the guy that you choose, and don't worry about having to break someone's heart as you're about to get proposed to. I don't know if it was the day before, day of, whatever, but she was able to let that go and then move on to, you know, her moment with Zach, whether she's going to get engaged to him or not. And I liked that a lot, because normally, you know, we don't get, I don't even know if that's ever happened before, where it happens before the engagement. But yeah, so that leaves her with Zach, and Zach, you know, meets Neil Lane. He picks up the ring. The ring is beautiful. And Tayshia has a little bit of moment when she gets to Chris the day of the proposal. For a moment, I thought she was maybe going to say she didn't want to get engaged. She wanted to just date. But she started to, like, Chris could see it in her face, started to break down a little bit. But I think that she was just, I think it was probably just a lot of emotions. Like, you know, she just sent someone home. She is about to tell Zach that, like, she's choosing him. And yeah, this whole ending to the show was probably one of my favorites in Bachelor history. Their proposal, Zach, you know, gets down on one knee, or no, they have their whole spiel, their whole speech, and everything Zach is saying to her is just like absolutely perfect, beautiful, and genuine. Like, it couldn't have been more genuine. And I started crying last night. I started tearing up watching it because I was like, this is like, they clearly love each other.
Yeah.
Like, it was beautiful. And there are only a couple of other bachelorettes that I've ever felt that way with, where I was like, I loved their proposal, and that was definitely one of them.
And I feel like it's kind of tough to say, but I feel like they will last.
Yes.
I hope forever, but you could just tell their love was real and that, like, it was him. Like,
Yes.
there was no doubt. And that's why I think that's a big issue with a lot of couples in Bachelor franchises, that when it comes down to the end, they don't know.
Right.
And, like, when you know, that is when the relationship lasts.
Yeah.
Like, you knew in Sean Lowe's season of The Bachelor, like, it was Catherine.
Yeah.
You just
and
knew.
Rachel said the same thing. Like, when she's done interviews post-Bachelor, Bachelorette, she said, like, she knew it was Brian, like, way early on, but, like, because of the show, she continued to, like, move on with all these guys and see, but she always knew it was Brian, and I think they're already married and still together. So, yeah, you're right. It's like, when they know, it usually lasts a lot longer, and the couples that can't decide are the ones that typically don't make it. But, yeah, she says yes, and we end up with Tayshia, who's engaged, and I was so happy for her. We've seen her in past seasons, and I was just, she was an amazing bachelorette, and I'm really happy they replaced Claire with her. I don't think they could have replaced her with anyone better. And now we get to see her and Zach, and it's kind of weird because with COVID and quarantine, like, we're not really getting much of them after.
Yeah.
So I'll be interested to see over the next couple of months, like, if we'll get to see them dating and all that stuff.
Yeah, it was definitely a solid season, The Bachelor.
Yes.
I mean,
one of my favorite seasons of Guys.
yeah, and we had two engagements, which I don't think has ever happened in the show, with Claire and Tayshia. You had a great group of guys, and they were definitely mature. Other than, like, the drama with Bennett and Noah, and then Ed and Chasen, like, they were solid, and I think they all respected each other.
Yeah,
and we don't get that on many seasons, and I can see them all, like, being boys after all of this, but they were definitely a good group of guys, and they were also great candidates for Bachelor in Paradise.
Oh, I can't wait.
Like, I guarantee, like, half of that
Yep.
cast.
And with Peter's girls, like, yeah.
So I could definitely see them all coming back in Paradise.
Yeah.
But we found actual love at the end of it, and an engagement, which we really haven't seen these past few years, because Peter ended up with, like, his 5th choice.
Yep.
I'm trying to remember. Hannah didn't end up with Jed. Colton is no longer with Cassie.
Becca and Garrett just recently broke up. The only ones who are still together, but they didn't even end up, were Ari and Lauren, and that was post, a month after?
Yeah. And might we add, they just announced another pregnancy.
Yeah.
Lauren's they're both gonna be having another kid, and it's twins.
Yeah, that's exciting.
So they're gonna kill 2 birds with 1 stone, and soon they're gonna have 3 kids, which is another great Bachelor franchise story.
Yeah, definitely. I'm happy to see. I hope, like, I wasn't a huge fan, but I hope Claire and Dale last. And obviously, I'm rooting for Tayshia and Zach, just so we can get back to, like, having some couples in this franchise that do last.
Well, in 2 weeks, we're going to have the new season of The Bachelor with Matt James. We know he has never been on the show before.
Yeah, his trailer. Did you watch his trailer?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see this group of girls.
Yeah.
Looking at the photos, I don't know if I can see any of them being the next Bachelorette.
I know.
But then again, looking at the photos every year, you're like, who are these people?
Yeah.
It's definitely better seeing them on camera, but they definitely look dramatic.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. There's one girl who, like, apparently calls herself a queen, and they showed that last night. She seems so annoying. But no, I'm excited to see Matt. Obviously, I wish it was one of these guys, because we got to know them really well, but I'm hoping that because Bachelor now doesn't stick to the tradition of it being from the season before, maybe we will get, an Ivan or a Riley or DeMar, someone for 2021.
See, since following Bachelor, I'm pretty sure we are going to get another Bachelorette come, like, May. I'm thinking they're going to go back to Hannah, if she's still available, Hannah Ann.
Oh, I think my Hannah B.
No,
really?
from Peter's season. Because they loved her and how she just stood her ground at the end of
Yeah.
Peter's season and
I
dumped
can see
him.
that.
But yeah, I'm excited for the Matt season. I feel like I was more excited in the beginning, but now that we met these group of guys,
Yeah, me too.
we're like, Ivan would have been solid.
I know.
Ben would have been solid. Maybe even like a Riley or Blake.
Yeah.
But
we'll see them all in Paradise, which hopefully that does happen this year.
yeah.
Because I want more of all these guys.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, and especially with either Peter's group of girls, which I'm sure will be there, and Matt's. So that'll be really fun. But that wraps it up here after the final rose. In terms of Tayshia's / Claire season of The Bachelorette, but soon we're going to have Matt's season, like we said, in a couple of weeks. So that's exciting. We're getting back-to-back seasons for like the first time. Usually we only get that with Bachelorette into Bachelor in Paradise.
Yeah, this is a quick break.
Yeah, so that's going to be fun. And we're going to be back here with episodes for Matt's season.
January 4th, 5th?
January 4th, yep. And that is also back on Monday nights.
Oh, okay.
So
Cool.
it's not going to be Tuesday nights now that Dancing with the Stars is over.
Yep.
We're going to get
That'll be good.
Monday night episodes. So like we'll get up a podcast on Tuesday or Wednesday. But yeah, that wraps it up here on After the Final Rose with Alana and Dante. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube if you don't already. Like the video. Feel free to comment, as well as checking us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and other podcast streaming platforms. And follow us on Instagram at ATFR_podcast. And yeah.
Thanks for tuning in, and have a happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate. Enjoy your holidays with your friends and family.
Thank you. Have a good one. Hopefully that recorded it all.
Oh my God.
But I think because the light's on, it did.
Dad's
Yeah, it did.